Good evening and welcome to Bull Markets Talk Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and I'm doing actually a special broadcast tonight. Excuse me. Um, Look, I will not be surprised if there's a Black Monday tomorrow. If you look at that non-farmers payrolls numbers that was out on Friday, you will be shocked. It was the worst and the most confusing NFP numbers that I ever saw. You have the unemployment rate that was up at about that was actually good at about 4.8%. Allegedly, it was good. And then you had a number of 194. Now, the unemployment rate at 4.8%, and then you have an NFP number that was 194. That was actually the big mystery for me. And I will just actually share my screen with you so that you can see. This was actually the NFP number there. The non-farmers payrolls exchange was at 194, and then you have a 4.8%. This is one hell of a problem here. And also this number, I did actually say that we will get a bad number at about 100,000, although I was not far away. But this is far away from the estimates at 490, and this is being continuing now for the year, where we must actually NFP number with huge margins. And then you have an unemployment number 4.8. Now, this is actually the problem that I'm worried about. And also the earnings that are actually going up at about 0.6%. Now, this sounds good, but it is not. A 4.8% unemployment rate. Now, if you look at this figure, this was also from an article that I took out where it comes with a labor participation rate, or they said employment as percentage of working age population. Now, this is in orange. This is the labor force participation rate. You can see there was a huge drop. And this is employment rate percentage of working age population. And look at that drop. Obviously, this was now to do with the pandemic that was now last year. And look, it did not go back to pre-pandemic levels where it was. It didn't go back. So if you go back to this number again of 4.8%, then this is actually a joke. This unemployment number is supposed to be worse because there is not enough people who go back to work, or the labor force, which means that people are literally not going to work. They are just not going to work at all. If the people went back to work, then it means that you would have actually a higher unemployment number, because that is what I expected on Friday. We would have get a higher unemployment number and then a bad NFP number. That was totally not the case. People are just not going to work in the United States. And I think that is what happened on Friday, because the market were trying to digest the whole entire story. And I think that will lead a possible massive sell-off that could start actually basically tomorrow, because of that NFP number. But not just the NFP number. You must remember now, the Chinese are coming back from a long week of holiday, and now they're coming back tomorrow. And there's also other property developers, which I will show you, that did not pay back the loans. So this is actually a huge problem, and that's why I'm doing this special broadcast.
Keep your finger on the market pulse with the News Alerts tool. Stay up to date on the latest sentiment across all the major asset classes. Uncover bullish or bearish signals tied to specific assets that could be developing before major price moves, and track how news sentiment correlated with price in the past. Track the news volume on an asset, its fear index, and get a better feel for its underlying strength. All with News Alerts, your central hub for market information. That's higher trading from MarketsX.
Thanks a lot for tuning into Bull Markets Talk Show. This is your host, Rian Hobson. I just want to say thank you to my sponsors, which is Markets.com, for making this possible, and also that I can do a broadcast at any given time. So I do thank them a lot for sponsoring my show. Please don't forget also to fund your account with $250 and get the classes absolutely free. I think this will be the start of basically a whole entire bubble that will burst right through. Because every time we know the Federal Reserve will get our backs. When the market goes down, the Federal Reserve will push amount of money in, and then the stocks will just go up. The problem is inflation is too high for the Federal Reserve to go in. That is just not possible this time around. The Federal Reserve is cash strapped. Look, to be honest, they can do it. But if they do pump in money, then you will have inflation, or you will have runaway inflation, like the whole story of the Bank of England now, where the Bank of England here, where they say the Bank of England's Sanders say, get ready for early rate hikes. This is now the point in England. They've been printing money now, I think, since 2014. And now they are actually running out of steam entirely. They need to tighten up now because they can't print anymore. And conditions in England, obviously, with the fuel shortages, and obviously everything is going up from transportation to food and everything. So the central bank don't have much of a choice now but to tighten up. And this story is exactly the same in the United States. And if I just go back to that number again of the labor participation rate, is that people don't go back to work. Now, as I said the last time with my podcast on Friday, we can't use the word anymore as we are actually using the passport. And that is what actually caused this whole problem where people are staying away from work. People are just not going to work. They are not even calculated as unemployed because of the password. So now there's a shortage of labor. And when you get a shortage of labor, that is where wages normally goes up. Now, people think that is nice. That is not. Because when wages are going up, it means that products, basic products or other products will have to increase. The prices will increase. And that leads to inflation. Now, if I go back to another story, and this is now where they say local government education jobs fell by 144, which may have been due to the seasonal adjustments in the numbers according to that. That is absolute nonsense. This number here is that people resign because of the passport. Also, the same trend happened in the healthcare facility, where about 160 healthcare workers left the job because of the passport. The passport is the big story, because now you have a passport issues, people can't go to work. And what does that mean? It actually reduces productivity. And that could lead to prices also to increase, because the goods will not get quickly to the floor, it will not get quickly to your house, or you will not get quickly treated when you are sick. And also the kids will suffer because of education problems. Now, all of this creates a massive, massive bubble. And that's why I say the Federal Reserve can't print anymore, because inflation, that's one of the reasons, inflation is literally too high. So will we see a good NFP number again? I honestly doubt, because of the passport. People just refuse to go to work because of the passport. And that is what we saw with the NFP number, because I thought the unemployment number would go up, but that is not the case. The people are just resigning. There's also other articles that I came across, and that is that there's the shortage of pilots, for example, and they need actually pilots, and that is all to do with the passport. So the passport is one of the problems, and also you have the insurance benefits that were stretching too long, and now people are, that although the insurance benefits are decreasing or it stopped, the thing is now people are saying, listen, I want a job with a higher salary, and also I need to get holiday days off and all of those things. So people have a lot of demands now, because this is the other reason why people have a lot of demands. And this is all to do with the job openings. Now, this is in orange. The job openings, you can see it actually skyrockets. Yeah. This is the amount of job openings that are there. There's quite a lot of jobs that are open. And this is the compensation plans next 3 months. Now, this is not for South Africa. This is for the United States. This is what they call the wage growth that is actually going up. So obviously, because of a lot of job openings that are there, they actually plan to give people a lot of compensation to go back to work so that people can get back to work. That is what happened. That will happen in the next 3 months. Now, it may sound good, but the problem is you will have wage inflation, and wage inflation leads normally to CPI number, and which means the Federal Reserve have to actually ring in the money backwards. So, which means they have to taper or go with the Bank of England's way of where they just start to raise the interest rates. I don't think the Federal Reserve has much of a choice, but to come with tapering very aggressively and also raise the interest rates at the same time. I'm dead sure we will see a heavy inflation number coming for this October, because there's rental inflation that went up. There's also housing inflation, wage inflation that's increased, and then also other products that did increase as well. So, which means you will have a higher inflation when it comes now to October, and that will give the Federal Reserve no choice but to start tapering with aggression, lift up the interest rates, and that will push up the dollar quite tremendously. Look, as it stands, the Federal Reserve has no choice but to drain the system. With that job number, and people are not going to work, they don't have much of a choice. They have to ring in the interest rates. Basically, it will crash the economy, and because they need to drain the system. Now, if you are not loaded with some aggressive dollars in your savings, then I don't know what the hell is going to happen to you, honestly speaking. In South Africa's instance, we worry here about more racism. So you can't actually take these people serious, nor the politicians can you take it serious. We have municipality elections that are coming up, and people talk about racism. Municipality legislation is very simple. Basic service that needs to get delivered by the Constitution, Section 32. I don't know where people come with racism and people that needs to get kicked out of the country. Only thing is that you need to do supply water, electricity, clean the streets, and basic stuff that needs to get sorted out. I don't know where the racism nonsense come in, or who's colored, who black. When you talk about that nonsense, then I don't pay attention. South Africa have too much, I would say, concentrating too much nonsense. The best thing for you to do is to have cash available. And I always say people with dollars will survive, because I'm very sure that if it could start tomorrow, it could start next Monday, but I'm so sure with that NFP number that we might see a heavy sell-off starting first in China. Now, in China, another property investor, Evergrande, isn't the only Chinese developer in deep debt. Property Fantasy Holdings missed 206 million bond payments, intensify concern over property market. Another property investor that did not pay back his interest. Evergrande is scrambling for money, and then you have another property mongo that could not pay back his debt. I think the sell-off will start in China, and then it's going to go over to Britain, because Britain is talking about raising interest rates and not tapering. And then it goes over to the United States, and that is all to do with the NFP number that was on Friday. I think the sell-off will start tomorrow, and that's why I have this special broadcast for you. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and thanks a lot to Markets.com for sponsoring the show. And please don't forget to click on all the links below and register your account with $250. Fund your account, get your classes absolutely free, and benefit out of this whole catastrophe that will happen. That's it from my side. Have a lovely Sunday evening, and then I will see